Hello, this is Peter Adkison, and I'm here with Steve Connard. We co-direct the Chaldea series, and we're here to take a deeper delve into the background of Helkyries in Chaldea's adaptation of Norse mythology.
Woohoo!
Yeah!
Norse mythology! Well, chances are by now everybody's seen Assassins of Chaldea, got to the end, and they're like, what the hell was that? You know, in the story, it's sort of briefly described as, angel of death. But is it really an angel of death or something else? Well, guess what? That's a Helkyrie. Yeah. People are like, what is a Helkyrie? Well, Hal, grab your glass of scotch or beverage of choice, and let's have a conversation about Norse mythology and Chaldea. So, what are Helkyries? They sound a lot like valkyries. Well, they kind of are related. I came up on this idea a long time ago. Norse mythology's got a lot of like grand, awesome, over-the-top, epic is a word overused. Lots of concepts like that. You've got gods and frost giants, and you've got wolves consuming moons, and you've got the Jormonger, who's 25,000 miles long and circles the planet and bites his tail. They got all these really cool things.
Now I understand why you like Norse mythology. I never got it until now. There you go. That's why you like Norse mythology so much, right, Steve?
Because everything's big. The thing, one of the coolest ideas, I think, just flat out coolest ideas in Norse mythology is just the Valkyries. Just the idea of these badass shield maidens riding on winged horses coming out of Valhalla, and they're going down to the battlefields and they're picking up the valiant slain. Just awesome, right? Here's a dead guy dying on the battlefield, and he looks up, and here comes this glorious warrior and armor and flying wings and the whole bit. Anyway, I just think that's just awesome. I think that the Norse mythology, I think they were doing strong women before it was sort of, the modern thing to do is like, yeah, women. Well, Norse mythology was doing it a long time ago. Anyway, so I always liked the idea of Valkyries. Then it occurred to me, we need to have the opposite. You have angels, you have fallen angels. So I was like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if you could take something like Hel came along and took a Valkyrie and corrupted it and basically made it the antithesis of everything that was good and noble about Valkyries, and just making these hideous things.
So when you say Hel, you're talking about the Norse goddess Hel, right?
Yes. Yes. That's actually one of the topics we should probably talk about, is Hel versus Hell.
Sure.
Pick your torment.
You take Hel and I'll take Hell. How's that?
So there's Hel with one L and there's Hel with two hockey sticks. The Norse version, the Norse think that ice and snow, that's torment. Just Niflheim, Helheim, Hell. This place, world of forever ice and snow. It actually was considered the land of mist in actual Norse mythology, the Poetic Eddas. So that's what the Norse think.
Yeah,
there's the other types of Hell.
Right, and so we also have the fire and brimstone Hell, which admittedly is based pretty much on Dante's sort of concept of Hell, with devils and princes of Hell, and some of the mythology that's creeped into this over the years. And so we have Hell and Hell, but they're two completely distinct places. The Norse Hell is a part of the Norse pantheon, Norse mythology, from the plains where Midgard and Asgard and the Nine Worlds all come from. And the Hell with two L's is actually from the age of magic, and is more tied to the cosmology of like traditional D&D types of planes and the outer planes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so if you're paying attention to our stories, you'll think, wow, like someone's cursing And like Ricewitch at one point, when the Drowsildar goes crazy, he goes, effing hell. But it's spelled Hel. It's because he's Germanic from Hesse near Tavia, which is the center of Norse culture. And they sort of recognize the Norse version of hell. Now, later on, you read Marco, and he gets woken up in the middle of the night, bang, 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 goes, what in hell blazes? Well, he says hell as in Hell. It's because he's from Perrin. And he's talking about the nine circles of hell. This happens to be something that it drives our editor bananas.
Well, anything you can do to drive editors bananas, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. I go through. It's
I
like,
say that in a loving way, you know, of our editors, but you know.
It's like, do we really have to get this nitpicky? I go, yeah, it's important. They're talking about two different places.
Two different places.
It's important for me. A couple of geeks out there that might appreciate it. But anyway, so that's some of the level of detail we go into.
So let me talk a little bit about Chaldea's take on Valkyries. The Norse mythology, Steve just explained, we're close to that in some ways. Our take on Valkyries, as we adapted it from Norse mythology, is that yes, the Valkyries ride on these steeds and they take the souls of the brave back to Valhalla. Of course, that's the brave of souls who worship the proper Norse gods. Of course, they have to be brave and valiant, but they also have to be, you know, part of the Norse fold, if you will. And they travel on the astral plane. And part of our cosmology is that when any individual that has a soul dies, the soul of that individual goes to the astral plane. Often it will linger, and that's how you get ghosts and so on. And if the individual didn't have a god, the soul might linger on the astral plane and wander aimlessly, but will probably be drawn to one of the alignment planes according to the alignment of that individual as they lived during life. However, if that soul worship a god, then they will be drawn to the home plane of that deity. Now, all sorts of bad things can happen to you on the astral plane. I mean, anybody who's played D&D knows for a fact that bad things can happen to you on the astral plane. And so gods like to make sure that the souls that would end up on their plane maybe have an escort. To varying extents, the gods will take this seriously. So the Valkyries are there to kind of help ensure that the soul gets kind of shuffled along and taken off to the proper place. And there is some laws, rules of godship, if you will, that give gods sort of a claim to the souls of those who worship them. And that's how we do Valkyries in Chaldea.
Well, not all souls are actually created equal. What Odin is doing with the Valkyries is going to get the most valiant, powerful, make sure those people get to where they're supposed to be going. You know, not little numbskull who's 10 years old and accidentally kills himself falling off a cliff. You know, Valkyrie isn't going to show up and take that person to Valhalla.
Yeah, you don't want astral raiders to go in and swoop up your souls, or some evil god, you know, because evil gods like to do that, like grab souls and have them for a little snap. You know?
We actually have this very prominent scene that takes place in one of the novels that we've written, where one of our characters, Zane actually, is on the astral plane and he sees a harvester, basically this Egyptian harvester who's just harvesting souls. And Zane's there to try to get a soul back, and this harvester basically says, "Take what you want; they're all free." Anyway, because, you know, we follow the primal order rules. Valkyries are primally backed entities, servitors of Odin, or more likely servitors of the entire pantheon. I'm sure a lot of the good deities are all throwing primal that way because they're not just serving Odin, they're serving all the gods and bringing all the, you know, it doesn't matter. The warrior dies, who's great. He could be worshiping Thor or Heimdall or, you know, whoever. So anyway, they are servitors and they have primal backed abilities. And you're probably going, well, why are you telling us all this stuff about Valkyries? Well, because Helkyries started out as Valkyries. Hell comes along and has grabbed them and has corrupted them into something else. And you're like, well, why would they do that? Most of the people that go to the Norse Hell are diseased, somebody who died old, broken down, pretty much the dregs of society. Well, so eventually you have this thing called Ragnarok, where all the gods rise up and they clash. And in Ragnarok, the giants march on Asgard, and you've got Loki and you've got Hela leading all these, Loki's brood. You've got huge wolves and you've got dragons and all sort of things. Well, there's this ship called Naglfar, which is basically all the fingernails and the toenails of all the dead who have that have been taken and made into Hell's, command carrier, if you will. And this thing will be able to, it's so large it can carry all the deads out of Hell, and so you've got this big undead army. But I mean, do you want really badass warriors on your side? I mean, because the thing is the Valkyries come down and they grab the valiant warriors. Those guys become Einarhar. I mean, Einarhar are just ridiculously awesome. And maybe we'll do a deeper delve on Einarhar someday. But Hela goes, well, I want the opposite of that. So what Helkyries do is they swoop down on a battlefield and they basically steal people away from dying that valiant death before they have the opportunity of dying. It's a good day to die, the way anyway, so they don't get that opportunity and they're taken away. It's interesting. One of their weird abilities is that if you see a Helkyrie on a battlefield from a distance, they look like a Valkyrie. Here they're coming. And then until they're right on top of you, you realize, wait, Freddy Krueger is definitely not a Valkyrie. Anyway, so that is essentially what Helkyries are. They're just badass, evil versions of Valkyries. In the story, with Joe's story, if you remember, like I'm here to save you, Edda. And she's like, no, I don't need to be saving, you do. And then she knocks his ass out. So he's out like this before her true form is revealed. So he doesn't actually ever see her true form. And so I'm going to go save Edda. It's like, whoa, be careful what you're chasing there.
Right. What has he gotten himself into, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens at the end there.
So one of the things you might be wondering is what the hell is this Helkyrie doing in this story? Because apparently Latari has some sort of claim on this Helkyrie in a way. Latari has disguised her as a silk slave, or thinks she is a silk slave. Who knows where Latari got her? What is she doing? Oh, now we know. Oh, now we've come out and said, well, it's a Helkyrie, it's a servitor of Hell. So one of the things that's happening in our story is, in the absence of Kradava and the loosening of the grip on Chaldea of Set, other gods in the Pearl universe are going to be present in different ways, acting in Chaldea, and something along those lines must be what's going on. Anything you want to add to that, Steve?
Well, I mean, so far you've seen Servitor of Set, Daughter of Set, walking around Main Street Esh, flexing their muscles. Now you've got a Helkyrie over here.
And in that same story in Ash with Zane, you had a priest of Isis with an artifact.
Yes. You've got Drazeldar who've freaked out and abandoned their posts. Right.
And we know we know that there are other demigods. Kradava died, but we know that there are other demigods of Chaldea, like Ariadne, who is Elven, Iltani, who is a daughter of Ishtar. Most of these, and there could be, and I promise you there are others, so at least one or two. And these demigods often have political connections back to whatever god ascended them and is supporting them, unless they found a way to do it themselves. And so this is the Age of Gods, and our story will feature some divine shenanigans, if you will.
I'm willing to bet there's a few other things that people have seen in our stories that will be revealed later to be more than just some mortal thing. Guarantee you.
9 worlds, 9 days, 9 doomed steps to follow. Lives wail, souls blaze, mortal hopes left fallow. Doubt not, lights will die. Come Ragnarok twilight. Hell to whore and harvest each fulfill their doomed birthright.
Who are you?
My name is Edgardo.
What is happening?
We should not have touched you. You are in incredible danger.
Now, what are those idiots doing?
We are going to a party.